Before we dive in, let me speak directly to the real historians, researchers, and survival-minded thinkers watching this. What you're about to hear challenges the comfortable academic habit of brushing off stories simply because they come wrapped in metaphor, legend, or exaggeration. If you're someone who wants clean lines and neat categories, history is going to frustrate you. But if you're willing to pay attention to the fingerprints left behind, in ruins, in oral traditions, in rituals, in the way tools age and structures fail, then you're in the right place. These aren't soft myths or bedtime stories. These are episodes where so-called fiction punched through the wall and revealed something undeniable on the other side. Before we go further, hit like and subscribe to History Reborn Alive so you don't miss any of the deeper challenging work we do here. Let's get started. The idea that Troy was fiction collapsed under archaeological pressure, and that should reshape the way you read ancient texts. Scholars dismissed the Trojan War as poetic theatre until actual city layers matching Homer's descriptions were uncovered. This tells you something actionable. Treat ancient epics the same way modern detectives treat coded witness statements. Don't dismiss the exaggeration. Extract what's consistent. When you compare geographic details, trade goods, weapon descriptions, and destruction layers, you realize myth carries a durable fossil of reality inside it. If you're studying an ancient conflict or researching pre-classical narratives, look for anchor points that line up across sources and archaeology. The story may be embellished, but the bones are real. The Viking sunstone myth teaches you that ancient navigation was far more advanced than many textbooks admit. The idea sounded ridiculous. Sunlight filtered through a crystal to find direction even in storms. But reconstruction experiments proved that Iceland's spar can reveal the sun's location with surprising accuracy. This is a practical skill. If you're ever in a survival situation where instruments fail, the principle of light polarization still works. Even a cheap modern polarizing filter can approximate what the Vikings did with a mineral shard. The Amazon warrior women myth eventually gained skeleton-level evidence, forcing historians to re-evaluate assumptions about gender roles in antiquity. Graves belonging to female warriors in Scythian territories contained weapons, trauma marks, and horse training equipment. This isn't symbolic, it's biological and archaeological fact. When analyzing any culture's social structure, never assume that modern norms project backward. Instead, allow the physical evidence, bone stress patterns, burial goods, injury types, to dictate the story. The plague doctor mask myth is another example of symbolism hiding a functional truth. People often speak as if the masks were theatrical or ceremonial. In reality, they were crude respiratory devices based on the medical theory of miasma. Herbs in the beak acted as early filters. This isn't primitive thinking. It's an early form of layered defense. Apply the principle today. Even in resource-limited scenarios, a layered filtration approach, cloth, charcoal, herbs with antibacterial qualities, can increase respiratory protection dramatically. The Chinese dragon-headed seismoscope myth demonstrates that ancient engineering often operated on principles modern historians failed to understand until recently. This instrument, described as dragons dropping metal balls during earthquakes, was recreated by scientists and shown to detect directional ground movement. It teaches an important method. When analysing ancient inventions, resist the tendency to assume metaphor where mechanical explanation might exist. build replicas, test mechanisms. Many ancient scientific claims remain untested simply because they're strange. The myth surrounding the destruction of the Library of Alexandria often gets romanticized, but its core tragedy remains entirely factual. The myth isn't that it burned. The myth was that the burning was a single event. Multiple waves of political, religious and military changes eroded the greatest knowledge centre of the ancient world. For anyone interested in preserving knowledge today, understand this. Redundancy is survival. Every archive, every dataset, every piece of research must live in multiple formats and locations. Otherwise, history repeats the same catastrophic loss. The myth of sunken cities, from Heraklion in Egypt to Pavlopetri in Greece, regained legitimacy once underwater archaeology matured. Entire street systems, temples, storage complexes and docks emerged from silt and salt water. These discoveries show how oral stories about submersion events, floods or sinking landscapes often encode real geological shifts. If you're doing historical research near coastal zones, match local legends with bathymetric surveys and seismic history. You'll be surprised at how accurately communities remember environmental trauma. The myth of Roman concrete that gets stronger with age was mocked for years until scientific analysis revealed chemical processes producing long-term durability. Roman marine concrete forms new minerals over time when exposed to seawater. Survivalists and builders can apply this knowledge today. Study the ratios of volcanic ash, lime and water. Even without volcanic ash, certain pozzolanic materials can produce concretes with similar endurance. The myth that the Americas housed complex urban civilizations far larger than colonial narratives admitted was erased by LiDAR scans across Mesoamerica and the Amazon basin. What were once dismissed as hills were mapped as pyramids, causeways, reservoirs and city grids. If you're doing fieldwork, understand this. Dense vegetation hides whole civilizations. Remote sensing is your friend. The myth that early cultures used biological warfare wasn't an exaggeration. Research shows that Scythians treated arrowheads with toxins, Assyrians contaminated water supplies, and medieval attackers catapulted diseased corpses. Understanding this helps us reinterpret ancient depictions of divine punishment or cursed armies. The real cause was tactical knowledge, not superstition. The myth that some ancient cultures possessed shockingly accurate astronomical knowledge is constantly reaffirmed. Structures across Mesoamerica, North Africa, the Mediterranean, and Asia align with celestial bodies with precision modern amateurs struggle to match. Instead of assuming mystical insight, treat these as long-term observational datasets. Ancient timekeeping and navigation depended on rigorous pattern recognition. The myth of mass migrations destroying civilizations, such as the Sea Peoples, gained credibility through DNA evidence and artifact distribution. What was once viewed as a chaotic myth now appears to reflect real population movements and geopolitical collapse. When analyzing ancient warfare or political fragmentation, remember that demographic shifts matter as much as battles. The myth that early cultures independently invented similar technologies now has genetic and artifact-based support. Archers' thumb rings, quilons on swords, wheeled carts and fermentation techniques appear in disconnected regions. The lesson is simple. Human intelligence converges. Don't assume diffusion when independent innovation is equally plausible. The myth of ancient megafires destroying entire regions, mentioned in mythic traditions across civilizations, now matches geological burn layers and charcoal deposits. Many fire stories reflect real climate events, lightning storms, or volcanic activity. This is critical for anyone studying migration patterns or societal collapses. The myth of giants in folklore often masks real encounters with megafauna remains. Ancient people finding mammoth or giant sloth bones interpreted them as evidence of enormous humans. This doesn't validate the supernatural, but it shows that legends often emerge from misinterpreted physical evidence. Apply this insight to any myth involving unusual bones. Examine the paleontological record first. These examples all point toward a consistent truth. Myth is not the opposite of history. It is history filtered through memory, error, metaphor, and the limited tools of the time. But it is still history. It's raw data, wrapped in narrative. And if you treat every myth like a puzzle box instead of a fairy tale, you'll uncover evidence that others overlooked. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more uncompromising historical analysis, make sure you like this video, share it with a fellow history buff, and subscribe to History Reborn Alive. We're just getting started, and the past still has a lot to reveal.